Welcome, everyone. Sorry for the little bit of delay there. We are having just a few technical difficulties this morning, but we're ready to begin our webinar on the Flex Fieldlens integration. So today, we're going to be going through, obviously, the integration between RedTeam Flex and our new Fieldlens job site management tool. And our agenda today, we're going to cover the features of that integration. So what flows back and forth in each direction. We're going to talk about how to create those linked projects. So if you're creating your projects in Flex, how do you then see them and start working with them in Fieldlens? We'll look at posts in Fieldlens, how to create those, the types of posts available, and again, what syncs back and forth. We'll look at drawings and reports in Fieldlens, and we'll kind of compare and contrast the capabilities and features there between Flex and Fieldlens. And then we'll look at viewing RFIs, punch, and safety items within RedTeam Flex as those come back across from Fieldlens. Of course, finishing up with some Q&A to make sure that any questions you have along the way, you get a chance to ask. If you'd like to ask any questions along the way, we do have Maggie and Tim here today kind of monitoring our chat and our Q&A. So please feel free to drop those questions as we go. I'll try to take some pauses and we'll answer those along the way. So with that, just a chance to introduce myself. My name is Sarah, and I am one of the senior implementation specialists here at RedTeam. I've been with RedTeam for about 2.5 years, mostly training on the Flex platform. So I know the ins and outs of Flex really, really well. And Fieldlens is something that I've recently begun training as we've integrated Flex and Fieldlens here. So I think it's a really cool integration that allows you to do a lot, and I'm excited to show it to you today. Now, let's talk a little bit about these two platforms. So Flex obviously is our flagship platform here at RedTeam. This is a full-scale project management software that's allowing you to track everything from financials to documents, job site management. And it really was a standalone platform, is a standalone platform, right, that allows you to control all the pieces of your project that you need to. However, as we started building our Fieldlens platform, what we realized is that it can bring a lot to the table in terms of flexibility and collaboration for your superintendents and those on the job site. So it's allowing them to collaborate with external parties in a way that Flex really wasn't allowing them to do prior. So in building this integration, the goal is to allow that job site management to become even more simple, to allow you to communicate things to your vendors, your customers, your architects in a way that was not as easy with Flex and that standard online plan room. So we're going to go ahead and move here then into the features of our integration. Let me just double check here to make sure we have our chat available so that we can keep an eye on everybody here. Okay, I think we're good. So features of the integration. This is where we talk a little bit about what flows back and forth. So initially, when we built this integration, we built it with some directionality. And we expect this integration to strengthen. But in the meantime, this first iteration of our integration is prioritized based on what we think is best handled in each platform. So you'll see that over here, I've got Fieldlens on the left and Flex on the right. And the arrows are showing you what pieces of information flow in each direction. So projects are started in Flex and can be manually pushed across to Fieldlens. We don't see that happening in the other direction. So we very intentionally built it that way. We intend for you to be creating your projects in Flex and then pushing them across to Fieldlens when you're ready to start using Fieldlens for that job site management piece. Along those lines is team members. We're allowing you to push across the people who are on that Flex project team as what we would call people in Fieldlens. It's the same thing, team members, but that's allowing you to very intentionally control who comes across into the Fieldlens project, so that if you just want to push across a certain subset of your team members for now and add more folks later, you have the control to do that. Plans and specs here. You'll see that we create our plans and specs in Flex, and we send drawings only across to Fieldlens. Fieldlens is a drawings management tool, but it's not going to handle things like specifications. So we're going to keep those in Flex, and those can be viewed through the online plan room for your project. But the benefit to pushing across your drawings here is that we can mark those up and we can pin things like RFIs, punch, and safety items to those drawings in Fieldlens in a way that we can't in Flex. So you'll see as we get into Fieldlens today that offers a lot more visual communication of what's going on your drawings. You'll also see revisions should start in Flex and be pushed across into Fieldlens. That means if you have addendums or change orders that are superseding some of those drawings, you'll load those into Flex first, and then you'll push them across manually into Fieldlens to make sure that the systems match up. Also, things like red line markups, which we'll discuss today, should be handled in Flex. And that way you're pushing across to make sure that you have the same version of your drawing in both systems, because you don't have the capability to push across any red line markups from Fieldlens back across. Now, something that moves in both directions here, which is probably, in my opinion, the most valuable piece of this integration right now, is RFIs. And that flows in both directions pretty seamlessly, and it happens automatically. It's allowing you to create an RFI in either system, and it will automatically sync to the other system. You can also answer and close RFIs in either system, and it will sync over and close that RFI in the other system. And that's really smooth, even in terms of numbering. It's going to maintain sequential numbering of your RFIs between both platforms, and we'll show you a demonstration of that today. The last couple of pieces you have here are your punch and your safety items. Now, if you're familiar with Flex and you're a Flex user already, you know these as requests for correction. In Flex, you have the request for correction feature, and you can create various types of requests for correction: punch, safety, quality, closeout, pre-construction, any category you could create. What we've done here, though, is we've created a link between specifically punch and safety type items from Fieldlens over to Flex, because Fieldlens already had the capability to deal with these punch and safety items. And in fact, it deals with them in a way that's much more interactive for your vendors than the way Flex does it. In Flex, those requests for correction have to be emailed out to everyone, and you as an employee of your company needs to mark it complete once the vendor verifies that it's complete. Whereas Fieldlens allows your vendors to get in and see those items in real time, interact with them, add photos, and mark them complete. So what we've done here is we've created a link where you can create and manage those in Fieldlens, and we're going to sync them across for visibility in Flex. They won't be managed in Flex, but it allows for folks like PMs or anybody else who may not be routinely in Fieldlens, someone higher up on your project team who's not walking the site on a daily basis can come into Flex and see all of those punch and safety items that are happening in Fieldlens without necessarily having to create a Fieldlens account. So that is, in a nutshell, everything that flows back and forth. Are there any questions at the moment on any of these processes before we start looking at some demonstrations?
No questions so far.
Perfect. Don't be afraid, guys. Shout those out in the Q&A if you have them. Otherwise, if you feel better about it, we can save them for the end. But I am actually going to switch over here to Flex, and that's where we're going to get started, is how do I push a project across from Flex to Fieldlens? Now, I'm operating in our training database today, so you'll see some kind of silly sample projects here. But when I first create a project, I can determine at what point in time I want to push that across to Fieldlens. And that may be different for each user. It depends on your business case and what makes the most sense for your team. So I can come in here to the scope tab of my project at any time, and I'm going to see this send to Fieldlens button. Now, currently, if you have Fieldlens and you have RedTeam Flex and you're not seeing this button, that just means you're not connected yet. So you'll want to reach out, whether it's to your integration specialist or your client success manager, and talk about how to establish that connection. But once you're connected via the app card, you'll see these buttons in every single project. And you can decide whether it's in the draft stage, the request stage, or maybe you're waiting until you're in progress and you know that you have a signed contract to go ahead and create that Fieldlens project. It's up to you and your workflow. So you have direct control here to say, I'm ready. to send this to Fieldlens. At the moment that you do that, you're going to get this pop-up window that's showing you a list of team members on the project. And this has taken a moment because I have a lot of team members on this project. But it's asking me who I would like to send across to Fieldlens. Pro tip here, you want to make sure you add yourself or you're not going to see the project in Fieldlens. I've done that in the past. So I can go ahead and choose specific team members that I want to send across and some that I don't. You may choose to send all of your employees. You may choose to send your customers or not, right? You're leaving yourself a lot of control here to say, hey, maybe we're in the request stage and I'm just going to send my estimating team across so that they can deal with pre-construction RFIs or drawing management, anything like that. But let's go ahead and add me as well so that we can see this when we push it across. Like I said, if you don't add yourself, you won't see it in your list when you go into Fieldlens to look for it. Here we go. And we go ahead and hit send. That's going to send those people. Now, this isn't the only time that you're going to be able to send these people across. So if you need to add additional folks to the Fieldlens project team down the road, all you need to do is go to your team members page within your Flex project, and you'll be able to check the box and send them across. So let's take a look at that. So now the project has been sent. You can see my note there. Success, project has been sent to Fieldlens. Incidentally, you'll also have a column out in the project's overview for Fieldlens that will tell you if the project has been sent or not. So that's going to be a really easy way to tell if you've sent the project. But let's come to our team members page. And we should see those same checkboxes next to the individuals on the project team here. We're going to see that same send to Fieldlens button that's going to allow us to send them across whenever we're ready. So if we sent the estimating team during the request stage, and now we're in progress and we're ready to send the remainder of our employees across, we can do that. Of course, if you have a limited number of licenses for your team, you may want to very carefully control who you send over so that those folks who are Fieldlens users can be a part of the project team. And then we're also going to look at how we can send drawings across as well. And that's a similar process. So let's go ahead and check these boxes, right? And it's going to show you send to Fieldlens. So you can see here, I can send them over at any time. It doesn't just have to be when we connect the project. Let's go look at drawings because we're going to see the same button there. So these are those top three items that I talked about, right? The project, the team members, and the drawings are all manually pushed. And they only go in one direction. So I've got all of my draft drawings here. I need to first commit them before I'm going to see that send to Fieldlens button. And now I can grab all of these or some of them and simply send to Fieldlens when I'm ready. Right now, this will be a repeated process if you have any addendums or change orders that supersede these, right? I would want to, once the superseding copy is committed, come back in here and check the box and send it over to Fieldlens to make sure that I've got the most up-to-date copy over there. And we allow this level of control, again, just because we want to make sure that you're able to push only the things you're going to need in terms of drawings over to Fieldlens. Now, I also want to talk a little bit while we're here about redline markups, because if you are utilizing the new markup features that we have in our plans and specs here in Flex, you'll notice that they're the same buttons you see in Fieldlens, markup and attach, or redline markups. That markup and attach feature could be used in either system, in Flex or in Fieldlens, and it's going to allow you to make markups and attach it to something like an RFI, where that marked up copy will only be visible within that RFI to those people who are looking at the RFI. But the primary copy of the drawing will remain as it was without those temporary markups on it. Whereas a redline markup is a permissions-based tool. Those who have the permissions to perform redline markups can make new permanent markups to the drawing. And that means I am superseding the older unmarked up copy. I'm putting my markups and stamps and notes, whatever I need on there, and then I publish it so that that is the copy everyone sees when they look at this in the plan room or in Fieldlens. Those redline markups should be performed only here in Flex so that once we've done that, and we've saved them, we can then check the box and push it across to Fieldlens to keep consistency and make sure we have the same copy with those same markups in both systems. So those are all the pieces that we're going to be pushing across manually from Flex into Fieldlens. Let's take a quick look at that note here in the project's overview so you can see how you can tell if a project has been sent. And then we're going to go over to Fieldlens and see what it looks like on that side. So here I've got just about every column available turned on, but if we hit the more icon, we can scroll down and we're going to see that Fieldlens. And you can trim some of these columns out, right, to what you prefer to see, but you can choose to show this Fieldlens column, which is going to show you if the project's been sent or not. That way you can keep track of projects that you have and have not sent across to Fieldlens. Now, at the moment, are there any questions on what we're seeing in Flex before we go over to Fieldlens?
Currently, no questions, Sarah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. So I'm going to transition over here, and we're going to be looking at this Haunted Mansion renovation project because I already have some nice data in here for you to take a look at. But you can see, if I come to my projects list, there's that Cinderella's Castle remodel. It's come across for us. I can go ahead and access it. All of your projects in Fieldlens that have come from Flex are going to be marked private, which means only the people that you put on the team are going to be able to access and interact with that project in Fieldlens. And we do that on purpose so that as you're pushing it across, you have complete control of who those team members are. So we can transition between projects here. Do note that you will have this new project button. Even if you're an integrated user and you're not using Fieldlens by itself, you're using it with Flex, you do have the capability to create new standalone projects in Fieldlens. I would say the only use case that I've thus far seen for that in terms of our integrated clients is design build clients who have chosen to create a project standalone in Fieldlens for the design stage, where they may handle pre-construction RFIs, they may handle drawing markups and all sorts of communication in that design stage that they don't necessarily want associated with the construction stage of the project. So they may create that in Fieldlens as its own standalone project. And then when the time comes for the build phase, they'll create the project in Flex and push it across, in which case they'd actually have two of those projects in Fieldlens, the design stage project and the build stage project. But that's really the only use case we've found where our integrated users should be creating a project in Fieldlens. Primarily, you'll be creating in Flex and pushing across. So from here, we want to talk a little bit about how Fieldlens works in terms of what we can use that may benefit us between Fieldlens and Flex. So if you haven't used Fieldlens much, a basic overview, right? Fieldlens is post-based. And what that means is every piece of activity that happens here in the Fieldlens project, we would refer to as a post. And I can come here to the Posts tab to see all the various activities that are going on within the project. And I can search through them and I can sort and filter through them. You have these advanced filter features where you can create saved filters to see exactly the types of posts that you want. RFIs, safety, punch list, efficiency, all those things are available here. You can create new posts at any time. And as we create a new post, we choose, most importantly, the flag on that post. So your options within here are no flag, which means this is a general post. It might be photos or updates or basic questions. It's a miscellaneous piece of information that I want to pass on to the team members of this project in Fieldlens. That does not sync back and forth. So any no flag posts you put here in Fieldlens are only visible by the people who are on the Fieldlens project. They won't be visible in Flex. Safety and deficiency. Deficiency is synonymous with the word punch here in Fieldlens. Some places you'll see it labeled as punch, some places deficiency, same thing. These safety and punch type posts, remember, become what we would call a request for correction in Flex. So they are integrated, but they only flow from here in Fieldlens over to Flex for visibility purposes. But we can create safety items that need to be taken care of or punch items that need to be taken care of. And then we can assign people to resolve that issue. RFIs here, remember those flow back and forth in both directions. And that's actually the one we're going to fill out today because we can then see how it can play back and forth. And then submittals. You'll know if you're a Flex user that you have a really fleshed out, well-rounded submittals workflow in your RedTeam Flex database. Fieldlens does have a submittal category for posts, but it has nowhere near the amount of workflow and tracking that you've got in Flex. So largely what I recommend for integrated clients is that they're handling these 3 items, safety, deficiency, and RFIs, in Fieldlens and allowing them to flow over to Flex. Whereas submittals, I definitely recommend handling in Flex because you've got that much more established workflow and a much better step-by-step tracking. However, this submittals category can be used if you'd like to post any approved or rejected submittals here for your Fieldlens users to view. So if it's important to you that those approved submittals be visible in Fieldlens, this would be a good way to create a submittals type post and then manually upload those approved submittals from Flex here into Fieldlens. Otherwise, what you can do is plan on managing those in Flex and allowing your customers, your architects, anyone who needs to go to the online plan room for your Flex project and see submittals there in real time. So we're going to go ahead and create an RFI post. And you'll see as I choose the post flag, the required pieces of information may shift a little bit. So for an RFI, RFIs are all public. So I don't have to determine who's able to see this post. Everyone who's a part of the project team will see this RFI post. I can go ahead and title it and say that we need to know, clarify dimensions of the ride cars, right? So we need to know what those dimensions of the cars are on the ride. Details, we can go ahead and specify all information needed here. And we've got tons of space. You can type out a full paragraph or a bulleted list as you want. It's very free form. And then we can go ahead and assign this to people. So whether it's an RFI, a safety item, or a punch item, we have the ability to assign who's responsible for answering that or for completing that action. And we can do so by browsing our list of team members on the project. And this will show us not just our employees, but we can see also here's like my fencing contractor or anybody else that I may need to. I can assign individuals. I can assign companies, right? So you can see that entire company for fences and gates has been included. We can even assign disciplines. So as you add companies or vendors to the project, you'll be able to specify what they are. Are they a subcontractor or supplier? If so, what kind? So you could assign this to your carpentry contractor. And then as you add them to the team, it's going to go ahead and flag that they need to answer this RFI, right? So it'll make it visible for them. But we're just going to add our single individual here. And we can set them a due date. Now, if I had multiple people, each person can have a different due date, or I can have a due date for all of them. We'll go ahead and say we need an answer by next Friday. We can choose locations. The same way you can create locations within your Flex projects, you can do so here in Fieldlens. So we've got several areas we can create, right? We can come here and say ride cars as a separate location if we want, and then we could create subunits of that. Or we could say, hey, within the dining room, we've got sub locations. You can see their lobby, we had restrooms in the west wall. So you can build these layers of locations to allow you to better track where things are taking place or where questions are. Of course, you don't have to put a location on any post unless you want to. And then down here along the bottom, you've got some more capabilities. You can assign more people. You can add categories. These are great for filtering. We can add categories on dimensions or whatever the case may be. That way you can sort and filter your posts in a way that makes sense for you, generate reports, or really just see the post that you're most interested in. You can add those locations, which we just did. You can pin to a drawing. This is a key difference in functionality between Flex and Fieldlens. In Flex, we have the ability to mark up our drawings and attach them to RFIs. We don't have the ability to pin that RFI to a drawing so that anytime someone looks at that drawing, they see that RFI posted. So now I can come in here and select a drawing, select my ground floor plan, and I can find You know, where are we concerned about? So I can say, hey, between the entry and the dining room, we need to know the dimensions of those cars so we make sure they're going to fit through. And let's go ahead and click done. Right, so now that is attached to the post. Anyone who looks at this RFI is going to see that pin on that drawing, and anyone who goes to the drawing will see a pin there where they can interact with the post directly. So a really nice feature that you won't see in Flex that is a really great reason to handle your drawings and your RFIs over here in Fieldlens. We can also attach files. So we can go ahead and attach files from anywhere that we'd like. That can be from our device, drag and drop here, but we can also bring them in from Dropbox, Google Drive, anywhere that we may be storing files. So I'm actually going to grab a couple here. We'll grab a couple photos, and you'll see how those will attach to the post. Let's grab a couple of these. We upload those too. They're going to be visible within the post, and they can be accessed and downloaded by anyone who's looking at this RFI. Notice we can also add resource tracking or weather to a post. Those are similar features to what you're comfortable with in Flex on your daily progress reports. So resource tracking would be similar to the census feature of your daily progress reports in Flex, allowing you to mark who worked how many hours on this task. And then weather, of course, you can specify the weather on a given day. These are more designed for those no flag posts where, you know, if you were a standalone Fieldlens user, you might be using Fieldlens for your daily progress reports. And in that case, you'd want to add your resource tracking and your weather. But for those of you using Flex, you've got a much more structured system for daily progress reports over in Flex. You most likely won't be using Fieldlens for those daily progress reports, simply because you'd have to flesh it out yourself each time on a no flag post. So now I've finished my post. I can duplicate it if I need it here multiple times. Maybe it's a task that needs to be completed 5 times. I can save it as a draft if I need to come back and finish it later, or I can just go ahead and post if I'm ready. So we've posted it. It's going to update here. And now that it's here, we're going to be able to see it over in Flex. So we're actually going to go take a look. And I want you to notice here that we've got a couple of RFIs, right? So we've got a closed one here, a resolved, and this open RFI. But we've also got a safety and a deficiency item in this project. And we're going to go see what those look like over in Flex. So we're going to come over to Flex and we're going to jump into that Haunted Mansion renovation project so that you can see where those are going to be visible. So first, we're going to look at RFIs. Just like the RFIs you're creating in Flex, they're here in the dialog tab. Something to keep in mind is that you can only sync one RFI template back and forth between Flex and Fieldlens. For that reason, with most of our new integrated clients, we're creating a template titled Fieldlens RFI. So that when you come in, should you choose to create an RFI here in Flex, you hit the new icon and you look at your RFIs, you'll see Fieldlens RFI, right? You'll pick exactly the template that you want to fill out versus that kind of standard default RFI that you'd see in Flex, right? That's because some of our Flex users have several different RFI templates that they use for different purposes. We're only currently capable of syncing one of those types back and forth with Fieldlens. So you'll want to choose exactly which template, if you have multiple, should be syncing back and forth. But you can see here, I can very clearly see that number 4 that we just created, clarify the dimensions of the ride cars, is right here as a draft. And as we go ahead and interact with that in Fieldlens, we can come in here and make notes and comments, and all of that will stay in Fieldlens. But at the point that the final person who's assigned marks this closed, we will take the final comment here in Fieldlens and make that the answer and close out the RFI in Flex. So that's how we know to close it in Flex, is if the last person who's assigned marks themselves closed, it will then become a closed RFI in Flex. On the other hand, if we answer it in Flex, right, we email it out from here because we have a vendor who really doesn't like using Fieldlens, and they go ahead and answer us via that email the way you're comfortable with in Flex. When we come in here and mark it answered and then change the status to closed, that's when it's going to push the answer as a comment over here into Fieldlens, and it'll mark everybody closed. So it really is quite a seamless process. I'm going to go ahead and mark this individual closed. So we'll go ahead and say answer comments here. Right, Sarah can put all of those in. She can add photos, anything she needs, files to clarify, and then she can say, hey, I'm done. I'm resolved. Right, she marks herself resolved. The closed piece is generally an employee on your team who will come in and verify that you have everything you need and mark it closed. Now, once she's marked closed, there's nobody else on this post. So we can see it's marked closed, and let's go ahead and refresh our dialog tab here. Now we don't see it. Well, where did it go? Right, it's in our closed documents. There are 4 closed documents. Use your filter options to take a look. So let's open our filter and go look at our closed items. And we will see that closed RFI, right? Fieldlens RFI 4, clarify dimensions. It's closed out, and the answer is going to be in there if we take a look. I also want you to notice in the form column here, this RFI, right? This did not sync back and forth because it's a different RFI template. This is an RFI I created in Flex by itself. Only my ones labeled Fieldlens RFI are the ones that are syncing back and forth, and they're going to maintain their own sequential numbering system, regardless of which side you create them in. So I know that's a lot of information on RFIs. Do we have any questions at all before we take a look at safety and punch items?
No questions, Sarah.
Good. Okay, awesome. Then our next stop here before we go back to Fieldlens is to say, where would we see those safety and deficiency or punch list items? Those are going to be in the progress tab. So again, if you're comfortable with the Flex feature for request for correction, you know that you can come in here and see a category for each of those different types of requests for correction that you've created. And that still holds true. Even if your project is connected to Fieldlens, you can come in here and create requests for correction on your own. They just won't sync back over to Fieldlens, right? Anything we create in here as a request for correction doesn't flow to Fieldlens. But anything we create in Fieldlens as a punch or a safety post flows over here to these pages, manage, punch, and safety. And you're going to be able to view that scuff on the lobby wall, right? Now I can't take any action here in Flex, but what I can do is click right there on the title to open it in Fieldlens and interact with it. And that's a great way to allow visibility to the people on your project team who don't routinely use Fieldlens, but they do need to see these and possibly interact with them, right? So they have an ability to see those both here in the progress tab and in the mobile app. You'll be able to see those items that you've created. And of course, if we take a look at the other side, we can look at our Fieldlens safety. And there's that safety item that's open, the missing fire extinguisher. So those are both coming directly from here, from those posts created in Fieldlens. So those are the main pieces that sync back and forth in terms of posts. The other things we want to talk about is going to be drawings, how we manage those markups and the differences here in capabilities. And then we'll talk about reporting capabilities. So drawings should all be coming from your Flex project. Like we said, we're not going to be uploading them standalone here into Fieldlens because we won't be able to then push them back into Flex. So you want to start in Flex, and as they push across, they will automatically name and number themselves based on what you had in Flex. They'll assign the discipline that you assigned in Flex. And when you create a superseding copy and push it across from Flex, it's automatically going to recognize that you already had an AO3 Delta, and it's going to supersede that. So you'll be able to see your various versions in here. You can view and download these. And then more importantly, we can come in here and take a look at this ground floor plan. And we'll be able to see posts that we've created. This is a capability we don't see in Flex. And it's one of the really great pieces of drawing management in Fieldlens is that we can interact either from the posts tab and see the pinned drawing in the post, or we can come to the drawing and we can sort and filter through the posts on this drawing. So I can say, hey, I only want to see, I don't want to see those closed items. I only want to see my resolved. Notice how all those closed items just disappeared. So I can sort and filter the same way I could on the post tab and allow myself to see exactly what I want. So let's look at that deficiency item. They said they resolved the scuff on the lobby wall. We can come in here. We see that Beto marked himself resolved. We may verify his after photos or his comments, anything like that, right? We could ask him for an after photo before we go ahead and mark him closed. But that allows you to come in here and interact, and your vendors are able to do the exact same thing. When they log in to Fieldlens, they're seeing exactly the things I'm showing you today. And they have the ability to come in here and put in their comments, attach their files, mark themselves resolved, all in real time, so that you're getting updates as they walk the site. They're performing these actions on their mobile app, and you have the ability to see exactly what's going on. Keeps you very up to date, as opposed to that Flex plan room that's largely a view-only capability, right? They have to reach out to you by email or text message or phone call to tell you that they resolved a request for correction in Flex, or you yourself would have to walk the worksite and find that that's been completed. So this is a much more interactive system. And I think that's really, really valuable. Notice what you've got here. You do have the markup and attach feature where you can mark this up and attach it to a post, whether that's a RFI or a safety post or anything you'd like. You can create it and attach it to a post, and that's a temporary markup. That markup won't be visible here on the main drawing. It'll only be visible as a attachment to that post that you created. The red line markups feature, notice, is not available here because we want to be creating those in Flex and pushing them across. We do have overlay comparison here. So if you've got multiple versions that you've pushed across from Flex, you'll be able to use that overlay comparison. You can create new posts right here on the drawing and pin them right to the drawing. So a lot of good capability there that you don't necessarily see with your drawing management in Flex. Last thing that we want to talk about then is going to be reports. Reporting capabilities here in Fieldlens is really based on a sort and filter of your posts. You can generate any report you can imagine as long as you can create it by sorting out the posts that you want to see. So if I export a report, it's going to ask me what to include. And you've got your basic filters here. You can say, I want to see safety items, I want to see punch list items, or I want to see all open items. But you've also got an advanced filters over here where you can use your categories, right? Maybe I have a category for delivery delays and I want to create a report on that. A category for near misses in safety posts, and I want to create a report for that. Right? Whatever the case may be, you can set all of these various filters and narrow down exactly what posts you want to see on the report. So that is a difference from Flex, because what you see in Flex, right, is we have a lot of great preset reports. We have a lot of really valuable pre-made reports, but there's not quite the ability to build a custom report from scratch the way that you would see here in Fieldlens. And I think that's valuable in that you can choose exactly what you want to see and not see. You title that report then based on what you're including, give it a title, choose who to send it to. It's going to send to you automatically, but you can add anybody else from the project team and we'll send them a copy to their email, and they'll see a copy in their reports tab when they log into Fieldlens. You can choose the format. You can export these reports either as PDF or CSV, and you've got some pre-made layouts you can choose from to see exactly what you want from those posts or what you don't want, or you can customize and check the boxes to tell us exactly which pieces of your posts that you've selected you want to include. But I think the final piece is probably my favorite, the ability to schedule reports. That's not available in Flex, right? If you've used Flex, you know that you have to go in and pull a report every single time you want to see it. Which again, there are really valuable pre-made reports in Flex that you won't be able to create in Fieldlens because we don't handle things like finances over in Fieldlens. But for your job site management reporting, this can be a really convenient way to create a custom report and schedule it to drop into your inbox daily, weekly, or monthly. And that will hold true for anyone that you put in the to field. Anyone you're going to send it to will have the ability to take advantage of that schedule. So once we create the report, again, it shoots to the email of everyone in the to line, and they're going to be able to come here to their reports tab and see all of their reports, their recurring or scheduled reports, one time, or reports that other people have shared with them. And we can come here and open that That allows us to download a new copy. We can also come in and rerun any report that we've run in the past and say, I would like to update this, same filter settings, same formatting, just rerun it with today's data, right? And you can see new versions of that report. So I think that's really a valuable piece for kind of custom job site reporting. Lastly, here's your people tab before we kind of finish up, is to show you that your people that you push over from Flex will appear here in the people tab in Fieldlens. And you'll have the ability to see if they've registered for a Fieldlens account. So for your employees, you have the ability to track that internally, right? But for your vendors, this is a great place to come to see if they have created their account, right? And it's going to say not registered. We'll try and refresh that tab and see what it looks like here. But it's going to tell you not registered if they haven't created an account. It's really as simple as when you add them to the first Fieldlens project that they've ever been a part of, we're going to send them an automated email. Hey, John has added you to the Haunted Mansion renovation project. He'd love for you to join him. Click here to sign up for a Fieldlens account. It's free. They can go ahead. There you go. Not registered. It's free for them to create an account and interact with your projects, especially if you have what we call ecosystem, right? So you've got an unlimited number of external parties who can integrate or interact with your projects. Once they create that account, you'll see it in the people tab. That not registered tag will disappear, and you'll know that from there on out, they can log into the web or mobile version of Fieldlens, and they're going to see what you see. They can sort and filter through and interact with their posts in real time in a way that they can't with Flex, right? If I'm a vendor in Flex and I have 12 RFIs to answer, I have to go back to all 12 of those emails in my inbox the way I received them from Flex, or I have to go to the online plan room and check to see if there's new ones. Whereas in Fieldlens, this all happens in real time. I can just log into Fieldlens on a routine basis and filter for assigned to me in my company, see exactly what I need to take care of, and tell you right here at the click of a button that I've resolved it or asked questions, things like that. So I think there's a lot of value here, and I hope that you're as excited as I am about starting to use these together. But are there any questions at all on what we've seen so far before we wrap up?
No questions currently.
Been good for now? Okay, then we will stay right here. I'll hang on for just a few minutes. If anyone has any questions about what you've seen today, please feel free to drop that in the chat or the Q&A. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.